Alright, how's it going everyone? I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, what I'm going to do is return to my existing CD collection. You'll recall in the last video I was doing hard rock, heavy metal, vinyl. Now I'm going back to the CD collection. So the last major artist I covered was Immortal. So continuing down the alphabet, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite bands and show my collection by them. That's the Finnish black metal band Impaled Nazarene. So probably don't need an introduction to most, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. Just to let you know, in between Immortal and Impaled Nazarene, I have a couple of bits and bobs in the collection, but I'm going to save those for another video just because they're a couple of one-offs. So today I'm talking about my Impaled Nazarene collection, and then we will cover those loose ends in the next video, if that makes sense. Okay, so I have 7 albums to talk about today. That's how many Impaled Nazarene albums I own, so not the full collection, and I will go into that later on in the video. But without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so first of all, you'll see that the t-shirt I'm wearing is of that band, Impaled Nazarene. This is the debut album, Cormpt, Norz, Norz, Norz. So that's where we're going to start today. So yes, this is Impaled Nazarene with Cormpt, Norz, Norz, Norz. Their debut album released in the early 90s, I think 91 or 92. I didn't do the research before this about specific dates. But yeah, this is a very important album to me. So many of you have probably heard the story many times by now, but long story short, this was the first black metal album I ever heard in my entire life. In 1993, I will never forget it, there was a shop in Sydney called Rock and Roll Warehouse, which was inside this cinema complex where they sold, metal t-shirts and posters and CDs, but especially with the CDs, they had these 2 glass cabinets just full of death metal and black metal CDs. And at that age, I was just starting to get into extreme music. So through that shop, that's how I discovered some of my first death metal bands. Like Dismember was the first one I heard there, in addition to Cannibal Corpse and Cancer, like bands like that. And then, yeah, so they had a massive death metal collection. But I remember one day we used to just hang around the shop and look through the stuff. But the guy was cool because he liked talking about the music. But he said, yeah, we have a lot of black metal too. And I said, what's black metal? Like, what's an example of that? Because at that time I had never heard it. I was only 14. This was like 1993. And he just points at this album and goes, that's black metal. And I said, oh, can I listen to it? And then he said, sure, puts it on. And as soon as that opening intro, Apologia, oozed out of the speakers, it scared the shit out of me, to be honest. Like, it was actually really frightening, that distorted, whispered, sort of ritualistic vocals. It sounded truly scary for me at the time. So, and then it tumbles into the next song, I Alprog Vompo, with those like really fast and sinister, evil sounding guitars and those high pitched screams and the blast beat drumming, and it just blew my mind. I thought, wow, this sounds incredibly evil and scary for me at that time, and it just blew me away. And then we listened to the whole album, and it just continued to amaze me. So that was my introduction to black metal, and I'll never forget it. But yeah, this is an absolutely brilliant album. And what I like about it is it's from the early 90s, so one of the first albums in the second wave of black metal, but completely different to their Norwegian counterparts. Like, this album, it has a unique riffing style. Like, it's not that kind of like tremolo melodic riffing that a lot of Norwegian black metal bands did, even though that was cool as well. But the riffs on this album just sound really sinister, foreboding, dark and evil. Like in a really strong, authentic sense. That's what I felt when I listened to this album. And in addition to that, what I like is the production is not shitty. Impaled Nazarene have never done that deliberately garagey production. A lot of bands tried to copy Dark Throne, but Impaled Nazarene have always had good sound quality. So this album, you can really hear everything clearly. But yeah, what you have is, this is what some people call a theatrical black metal album, because there's a lot of sort of skits and samples in the middle, of like, chants and rituals, or like some tracks where it's just like 7 seconds of keyboards. Other tracks where, you can even hear animals and screeching and, all sorts of stuff, like to give it that ritualistic feel. But the overall listen is a very theatrical and unique experience, I would say. But unfortunately, this is the original version released by Modern Invasion Music in Australia. So, and on this version, they actually messed up the track listing, so they're all out of sync. So I'm not going to dissect each track because there's actually 17 tracks on here as well, because many are short. But long story short, I think this is just an absolutely brilliant album. It's one of my favorite black metal albums of all time. Not my favorite Impaled Nazarene one. In a sense, it is, like it's the most classic, but there's another one which I like even more than this, so we'll talk about that later. But so many good songs on this, but some of my favorites would be I Alpog Vompo. That second track is so evil and sinister, it's fantastic. Also, In the Name of Satan, The Forest, The Darkness, which has got some like echoey stereo vocals, which sound really cool. Also, sorry, the track listing is not so clear on this, but Impure Orgies, which is the one including, you know, samples of all the animals and everything. Like you hear this menagerie of animals like birds, and I think Terrorizer magazine described it as sounding like a bunch of shagging dinosaurs, but it's pretty weird. Also The Crucified, which has got an almost punky feeling, and then the final track, which concludes the album, obviously, is really sinister and evil. That's Damnation Raping the Angels, which has got some really bizarre and kind of evil sounding dark riffs and guitar solos in that, and always this foreboding dark sense of evil. Like I remember one sort of promotional catalog described this album as, whenever you play this album, it feels like a fog is about to roll over the hill. It's truly evil, and I know I completely overuse that word in this description, but just see what I mean. The riff sounds so sinister, the blast beat drumming is clear, the vocals are high-pitched and screechy, and vocalist Mika Luttinen has a very distinct voice, so absolutely fantastic. So there's a lot of main songs and they're really good, but the interludes in the middle, you know, with the keyboards and the theatrical moments, they sort of break up the album really nicely. And hard to believe actually, but this album actually reached the charts in Finland when it was released, which shows how much of a metal country Finland is, because this is deeply dark and sinister satanic black metal, but it made it into the Finnish mainstream charts, which is cool. So here's the original design on the back. It's got all of the track listings which are not clear, Christ being crucified. Here's the front cover, which I always thought was eerie and sinister as well, with that demonic goat, probably Satan, and these women offering some kind of sacrifice, the disheveled corpse down the bottom. They've got the thanks list here, which is funny, like the names of some of the bands they thank. I think the funniest sounding one was Goat Volva. And just the logo here. And it's funny, they also talk about something, just a little bit of trivia for you, that they have a mail order details, but they say no orders from Norway accepted, because that's a reflection of the time of the rivalry between the Scandinavian black metal scenes. You know, I think it was mainly between Norway and Sweden, but also between Finland and Norway. And then that's all dust in the wind now, of course, but at the time the rivalry was serious. So yeah, they say no orders from Norway accepted, but Mika Luttinen, the vocalist, later clarified that that was all cleared up with the Norwegian scene. But anyway, this album, I don't know if my description has sufficed, but I don't want to go into too much detail. But if you've got a spare half an hour and you like black metal and you haven't heard this, it is absolutely essential. So go and listen to it. Impaled Nazarene's legendary debut album, told Cormpt Norz, Norz, Norz. And that had a pretty intense t-shirt too. You know, the back, which had this image, and it said Christ is the crucified whore. So like, that's a pretty intense statement. All right, so coming up next, this is the second album in the band's discography. This is Impaled Nazarene with Ugra Karma. Okay, which many actually regard as their best. So aficionados will know this is not the original artwork, but I think it's kind of cool. It's got that kind of trademark, almost mascot that Impaled Nazarene used for a while, using the gas mask. But actually, the original cover of this, it featured Hindu artistic images, you know, from Indian religion, and I think that stirred up some controversy because Hindu groups got very upset about it, and so as a result I think they had to change this, or this is the alternative version anyway. But this is an absolutely brilliant album. As I said, most people consider it their best. A lot of fans do anyway. The production is flawless, big, powerful, epic production, which sounds fantastic. They also include, just like the debut album, it's like really melodic, sinister sounding riffs, but not melodic in a wimpy way. They also use keyboards, and there's even elements of other instruments, which I will get into, like Ugra Karma, you know, deriving from Hindu religion, because there's a lot of references to that as a kind of concept album. Even the musicianship reflects that as well. But it opens up with Goat Side, which is like just this blasting assault, but then it has these very sort of atmospheric symphonic keyboards, like which sound just so enchanting, basically. And then the main first track is The Horny and the Horned, which is a very catchy song. That's the funny thing about Impaled Nazarene. Although they're a very kind of extreme black metal band, they have a really sort of rocky and punky sensibility to them. So a lot of the songs are very rocky and catchy, I find. And The Horny and the Horned is one, like just catchy riff in that, and the melodies and everything, and even the lyrics make that even more so, like even catchier. But in this song, they start incorporating some clean guitars which almost resemble Indian or Middle Eastern music. And again, I think that's no surprise considering the concept of the album, but that's great. And then Sadhu Satana, fantastic song, like just blasting and very angry again. But you know, the lyrics and the vocals coupled with the music just make it so catchy. So I love Sadhu Satana as well. The same with Chaos Goat Law, which has got some very extreme lyrics again. And this band has never pulled punches with their lyrics. Like, it's very sort of vitriolic, hateful, explosive, intense lyrics. Because let's face it, with the kind of music they're writing, they're not going to write about peace and flowers, are they? But yeah, Chaos Goat Law is a really catchy song. And again, just these catchy lines, like the law is set by Chaos Goat, you obey, you slaves, you die. It catches on quickly. Then the next track, Hate, that was one of the first Impaled Nazarene songs I heard outside of Cormpt, Norz, Norz, Norz. Like back in the day, 1994, you know, I had to listen to black metal like on community radio because it wasn't very accessible at the time. But I remember taping Hate off the radio, and that's a very atmospheric song with the keyboards and everything. And those keyboards, the melodies make it very memorable. And also they've got that, you know, famous sample, you know, which is, you did it because you were inspired by the devil. Yes, I am inspired by the damned, which Marduk later used on their album World Funeral, I think. But yeah, this Hate from this album was the first one they used it. Then Gott ist tot is kind of like, which is obviously German for God is dead. They say here it's the Antichrist war mix. I don't know if there was an original, but that's a very sort of like catchy industrial metal song almost. But again, the melodies in it are catchy, and again, they incorporate those sort of Middle Eastern and Indian sounding clean guitars in, like that, the solo they do. It's so simplistic but so melodic and catchy, so that's a really great song. Yeah, so they're some of my favorite tracks, like the first 6 just blow me away. Another favorite track of mine is Soul Rape. Again, that's got some very extreme lyrics, like extremely actually, to the point where it makes me laugh, although I have read that this band is not intending to be funny. But you don't understand, with Impaled Nazarene's lyrics, they're so explosive and vitriolic, like you almost laugh sometimes just with how hateful and intense they are. So yeah, that's really cool. Like there's some shock value in it. Yeah, so Soul Rape is a fantastic song, and also Kali Yaga, especially with that vocal pattern, like Ugra Karma, Kali Yaga, Multi Shiva, fantastic. Cyber Christ then pulls back for some atmosphere, where it's got just the guitar melodies in that song and that mid-paced drum beat. It's such a catchy song, and almost reflective and thoughtful. So a lot of people think this band is just all about extremity, but then they also have a really good grip on melody and atmosphere a lot of the time. So Cyber Christ is another favorite song. And my other favorite song is the last one, which is called Sadistic 666 Under a Golden Shower. Again, that's a slower but very heavy track, but again, just fantastic atmosphere, which sounds really epic. And I always like that line they say at the end. What is it? Haustana vittu. I'm not sure if I'm reading that correctly, which is Finnish for fuck you, but it just blends in with the music so well. So yeah, my favorite songs on here, it's about like 9 of the 12 or 13 songs. They also have some bonus tracks, Satanic Maso Whore and Con Through Life, which is a cover of Extreme Noise Terror, because obviously this band, although they're black metal, they're very influenced by punk and crust music, which is coming into the picture later. But yeah, absolutely fantastic album. So there's the cover. This is the alternate cover art. I do prefer the original with the Indian artwork, but it is what it is, as they say. I used to hate that expression. Yeah, but the booklet layout is good. Like all the lyrics are nice and readable, and a nice colorful booklet. And the same concept with the disc there. Yeah, so absolutely fantastic album by Impaled Nazarene. Again, I know a lot of people say this is their favorite. It's one of my favorites. I didn't do a ranking today because it's so hard, because with all of these 7 albums, I like them so much. But brilliant album, you must check it out. Impaled Nazarene with Ugra Karma. All right. Coming up to the band's 3rd album next. This is Impaled Nazarene with Suomi, Finland, Perkele. I think that's how you say it. Suomi meaning Finland, and then the word Perkele, I think that means, that's Finnish for devil, but I've heard, I'm not sure if I'm completely right about this, Finns sort of use it as a curse word. You know, like, oh, fuck that, or god damn it, you say Perkele. And my Finnish friend said you have to emphasize the trill when you say it. But yeah, Suomi, Finland, Perkele, and I think that's the lion of Finland with the sword. I really like this cover, picture of the band on the back here. So this was the album which sort of divided fans, I think, because Mika Lutinen is the vocalist. The drummer and guitarist was his brother, Kimmo Lutinen, and he composed all of the music on this album. And I read that he wanted to take the band in a different direction, a more sort of melodic, accessible direction, but the rest of the band was against it. So guess what happened after this album? They kicked him out. And I think Mika described this as the ego trip of his brother, writing this, like it says, Kimmo Lutinen, on this album he calls himself Sir Lutinen. It says, Sir Lutinen dedicates this LP to himself and thanks himself. So yes, it's clear it was very egotistical. But is it a bad album? I don't think so. I know the band themselves hate this album. I really like it, generally speaking. There are a couple of songs which I don't like so much, and you can tell they're Kimmo's influence, like the song Blood is Thicker Than Water. It's sort of atmospheric and melodic, but in a very accessible way. It's not a bad song, but it's just not what you would expect from Impaled Nazarene. But that's about the only song I disliked, and there's a couple which are kind of forgettable, but the rest of the album I really like. So the intro, it starts out with that chant, you know, Suomi, Finland, Perkele, and then it starts with that big climatic intro, basically. And then the riff from the first track, which is called Vitutuksen Multipennus. Yeah, like really sinister, evil sounding riff in that with blasting drumming. So very classic Impaled Nazarene. It's great. So Blood is Thicker Than Water, that's the kind of romantic song which I don't like. So just tell you some of my other favorites, like the next sort of highlight track for me is probably Steel Vagina. So again, funny track, and funny lyrics in that. It shows you how extreme this band is, like the bridge in that song, limbs and blood, oily cunt, skulls and steel, rusty fuck, bones and nails, hellfire seed, designed to end it all, damnation inferno, steel vagina is your god. So yeah, funny lyrics in that song, but that's what this band has always been about, very shocking. And one of my favorite tracks on the album is Total War, Winter War, which was a song about Finns fighting against Russians, you know, in the Second World War, defending their homeland. So it's a very patriotic song. And Impaled Nazarene have also been known to write a lot of sort of nationalistic songs, you know, about Finnish pride and everything, you know, their place in history. But yeah, Total War, Winter War, it starts with that warlike chant, like, do you want total war? Yes, we want fucking war. You know, it's just great. And then when that main riff kicks in, the riff in that song is so good. And they also include that, you know, the line, the title from the album, Suomi, Finland, Perkele. So that's one of my favorite tracks. Yeah, The Burning is a slower and more atmospheric track, but catchy and melodic, so I do like it. And then another favorite song of mine is the track Let's Fucking Die. I remember when this album came out and people wore the t-shirts with that, like big block letters, Let's Fucking Die. Hilarious title, by the way. That's a very punky track, actually. And so this is the album where you see the band incorporating a lot of punk influences, more so than the first two. But that song, Let's Fucking Die, despite the ridiculous title, the lyrics are funny. Again, maybe not intentionally, but again, because they're so extreme, it's funny. Just like very catchy and melodic. It's got a bass solo, which is really melodic. And I also like, you know, the bridge before that, like, let's die, 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 die. Like, the chant, it just really gets you going. Like, it's got a really sort of tribal football kind of feel, if that makes sense with this album. Like, it's really catering to the crowds with songs like Total War, Winter War, and Let's Fucking Die. Very anthemic songs, let's say. And another favorite song, oh yeah, The Oath of the Goat. So I'm not reading all of the tracks here, just naming my favorites, but The Oath of the Goat, that's sort of sinister and eerie and haunting in a kind of creepy way, but like again, just the riffs in that song and the melodies, they're so catchy, and especially with Mika's vocals and the lyrics, you know, especially the part like "We've got the power, rah rah rah." Again, it kind of sounds very anthemic. So I really do like this album. So I know the band themselves hate it, and a lot of people were turned away by this album. Like, there's a couple of tracks I didn't mention, which to me they're okay, but just not as memorable. But the one song I really just don't like on this album is "Blood is Thicker Than Water." I can still listen to it, but it's just not a highlight for me. So there's the iconic cover. Picture of the band on the back, which is cool. So Mika wearing the gas mask and the guy here swinging the bottle of Jack. Iconic, it's cool. And then, yeah, you've got all of the lyrics set out in this digipack and picture disc, which is cool. And I'll just read out the titles or the credits of this. It's really funny. So it says, "Impaled Nazarene are Sir Lieutenant, Boom Boom Shake the Room, and Tampu and Synthetic XTC, and other 6-string motherfuck and special sound effects." So that's his role in the band. Then, "The Fuck You Man, electric background blaster and 5-string bass leads and special sound effects. Then, "Dr. Ace, 6-string motherfuck and special sound effects, and Mr. LGD6, bigotry and space cake and virtual main effects abomination." So very sort of like theatrical descriptions of, you know, their roles in the band. And then it says here, "How low can you go? Too low, too fucking low." So yeah, really good album actually. So the only song I really don't like is "Blood is Thicker Than Water." But yeah, you might have heard the band write this off, but I would say it's worth a listen anyway, at least for the good songs. So that's Impaled Nazarene with Suomi, Finland, Perkele. All right, sorry about my terrible Finnish pronunciation. I'm trying my best to do the trill. Right, then we move into the next album. This is Impaled Nazarene with Latex Cult. So this was the album that was released after Kimmo was kicked out of the band, and the band returned to their aggressive roots. This is the album, as I've said, the band mainly plays black metal, but they've incorporated a lot of punk and cross-punk and grindcore influences. This, in my opinion, is the punkiest album of them all. And it's actually really good. When I know these albums back to front, but I listened to them all yesterday and today again, just to refresh myself. And it's funny because I used to think this one was not a kind of highlight album for me, but when I listened to it again yesterday, it made me realize how well I know the songs because they're so memorable. And like, I like punk music, so that's not a turn off for me, but I just realized that I like this album more than I thought. Like, very, very punky and aggressive, and the production is excellent. You can really, the good thing about Impaled Nazarene is you can really hear the bass very well, and there's more bass solos on this album. So yeah, this was the band going in the punkiest direction they ever have, and I really like it. Like, fusing punk with black metal, and it's very aggressive. They call this album nuclear metal. I think that's because of some of the themes they talk about on the album. But let's see, so it starts off with 666S of Foreplay, which is kind of like a spooky intro with ghostly kind of voices. Then we go into the opening main track, which is Carmageddon Warriors. Again, so memorable in terms of the riffing and the melodies, and like I said, Impaled Nazarene has this catchy rock sensibility, so it's almost like bopping along to a rock song when you hear that, and like really fantastic lyrics, everything about that song. So Carmageddon Warriors is a fantastic track. Then the next two are very punky and crusty and violent, like they are Violence I Crave and Bashing in Heads, like a lot of blast beats, those songs, and really intense. And then the next track is Motor Penis, which is, again, that's got a like rocky, punky feel, like not as blasting as the previous two. And just, again, great memorable lyrics in that song, like Motor Action Phallus, 6666 Ways to Die. You know, see, I can just rattle these off because they stick in my head so much. And that part, yeah, dan, 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 M-O-L-O, and then it launches into this bass solo, which is fucking sick. It's great, the bass solo in Motor Penis, so that's a good song. Then the next track is Zum Kotzen with the lyrics in German, and quite funny as well, like very extreme, like Ich frage dir, den Untermensch, was ist reiner Scheiße? Like, it's just, I don't know, I think, you know, the band has like toyed with kind of fascist lyrics over their albums, but I don't think it's to be taken too seriously. But yeah, you know, Zum Kotzen, very memorable because of the German lyrics. And then Alien Blueprint. Yep, that's a good song as well. Catchy riffs in that, and funny lyrics like Alien Jesus will fuck your face, your mind, your soul. I think that's it. And then, yeah, Goat War, very intense because they always incorporated goat songs into their album. So Goat War is very intense, especially the ending of that song with the vocals. Yep, Punishment is absolute. Again, a very catchy song with the pre-chorus and chorus, like Welcome to the Dome of Pleasure and Pain. And it's got the spoken word intro from the Irish nun, which is pretty funny. Yeah, When All Golden Turn to Shit is a good song. Masturbator is quite funny again, like, you know, masturbating with a gun, vomit, sin and flesh. These lyrics, Impaled Nazarene lyrics are so bizarre. And the end of that song where it says, stand up and be a cunt tonight, alright, die, 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 die. So that's a really good one. The Burning of Provinciestrat is sort of atmospheric song, and it concludes with the controversial or the funny track on this, which is I Eat Pussy for Breakfast, which has funny lyrics, probably self-explanatory from the title. And then the last track, Delirium Tremens, it's like a slow, heavy track to bring the album down. But like I said, it's a very punky album, but I just love it because the songs are so memorable. There's so many memorable moments, both musically and lyrically and vocally, everything about it. So like I said, it was never sort of up there for me, but now I'm thinking, shit, I know this album really well because it's really great. So there's the back there. Okay, and it's just got this fold-out booklet with all of the lyrics running horizontally. That's kind of annoying, but at least they're big and readable. Yep, and credits. Band saying they play nuclear metal. Yep, so I would say this is the punkiest album that Impaled Nazarene have ever done, but I love it. There's the picture disc there. Yep, so I know some metal fans don't like punk influences, but if you think about black metal, it's substantially influenced by punk. But this album just really shows the punk influences in spades, and it's fantastic. So, Impaled Nazarene with Latex Cult. All right. Shit. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to talk about these albums in much detail, but I feel passionate about this band, one of my favorites, so I can't help it. Anyway, moving along, the next album, this is Impaled Nazarene with Rapture. And some of you might be wondering, what the hell is this cover art? This is the original. I bought it in '98 when it came out. I think when it was re-released, there's a picture of a goat holding like a shepherd stuff, like a ram's head or something, but I like this one too. It's got like the representing a UFO because that's reflecting some of the lyrics on the album. This album is one of my favorites by Impaled Nazarene. I remember reading an interview with Mika Lutten, and he said at that point in their career, he thought this was their weakest album so far. I just absolutely love this album because it continues with the punk influences of Latex Cult, but it injects it with more metal influence as well. So it's just like, not as like bassy and punky and staccato. It's more just sort of like heavy, intense riffs and very metallic sounding, but it's just combining the best of the two worlds. And like 14 tracks on this, there's no fucking around. The production is excellent. The riffs in the guitars are great. Interestingly, on this album, they don't use any keyboards. No, they didn't either in Latex Cult, so this is much more stripped back. But absolutely brilliant, like the opening track, Penis et Circes, fantastic lyrics in that song, and like the screams and everything, and the riffs, you know, like that chorus, like Hail Satan, Master, Weeping Christians burned at stakes, with the thunderous drumming, fucking awesome. The next track, Sixth Degree Mindfuck, is equally good in terms of the lyrics and the riffs. Yep, Iron Fist with an Iron Will is just oozing, screaming, literally, it's screaming aggression. The high-pitched scream done by Mika in that song, fantastic. Angel Rectums Do Bleed is the next track, like lyrically a bit silly, but like, again, that's got a kind of punky edge, but still so metallic and heavy. Then the next track, We're Satan's Generation, that's a very anthemic song, fusing punk and metal again. And I like the lyrics at the end of the chorus, we need no stupid fucking conscience, go get fucked if you're not one of the bestial ones. Goat Vomit and Gas Masks is good, especially the end where he says, end of ritual, you fucking die. I don't know why, it just has such an impact. And then, yeah, oh God, I could just read out every one, sorry, like Fallout Theory and Practice, excellent riffs in that, and it's very memorable. Healers of the Red Plague, very catchy chorus in that. The Pillory, excellent, like just a circular catchy riff in that. Amazing chorus, and just the blast beats and fused with the guitar melodies, it's just so incredibly catchy, so I love that. Yep, the return of the Nuclear Gods, some really epic moments in that song, especially with the lyrics "Skies Open." Vituation is a great song, like dun 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 dun, like that's got a punky kind of vibe to it, and I like the lyric in the song. I look in the mirror and it screams, "Go get fucked, you piece of shit," because I think that song's about having a hangover and feeling terrible. So some of us have been there. Then the next track, JCS, which stands for Jesus Cunt Syndicate, catchy chorus again. And one of my favorite tracks on the album is Inbred, which is like, again, metal fused with punk, but like just so incredibly catchy. The lyrics are incredibly hateful and vitriolic, extremely pissed off. But, and again, those lyrics make me laugh, not because they're supposed to be funny, but just because they're so shocking and extreme. But I remember when I read it for the first time, when I was young as well, I was just cracking up going, wow, that's an intense song. But it is, I find that song Inbred, it's a very good outlet for anger or aggression or hatred. Like, just crank that up. It's fantastic. And then the song ends with a slower more atmospheric track called Phallus Malacarium, which is very anthemic, especially with the chant "All Hail Satan." So I read out and described just about every song on this album, literally. So there's not one bad song on this album. It's one of my favorites. So don't be turned off by the fact that Mika and the band hate this album. For me personally, I really love it. It's one of my favorites. So just showing you the simplistic layout, like that disc is pretty cool actually. And then we have a booklet inside, so band logo and all of the lyrics, which are relatively readable. Picture of the band there, all holding guns, cool. Yeah. So this album does not hold back, it pulls no punches, just 14 songs of intense punk black metal, full of hatred, aggression and anger, and a great energy release. I just love it. So Impaled Nazarene with Rapture. All right, don't worry guys, we've only got 2 more to go and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, so after Rapture, the band brought out this album. This is Impaled Nazarene with Nihil or Nihil, depending on how you choose to pronounce it. So, unlike the previous 2, Latex Cult and Rapture, this album went more in a heavy metal direction. So, Impaled Nazarene has always had those punk influences, but as I said, the heavy metal influences became a lot stronger on this, and that's no surprise. I deduced it anyway, but then I also read from interviews. That was because of the addition of another member, which was none other than Alexei Lyaho, rest in peace, you know, who was a member of Children of Bodom. In fact, the main songwriter, the lead singer, band leader, Alexei. Yeah, rest in peace, absolutely brilliant musician he was, fantastic guitarist, so they added him as a lead guitarist. So Alexei came from a more metal background, I suppose, rather than a punk background. So this album was infused with his influence, and it's absolutely fantastic. What I like about it is it's more melodic, maybe, than some other albums, but not melodic in a wimpy way. It's just that sort of like Guitar Hero metal-y way, you know, which is Alexei's influence, I think. But what is so fantastic about this album, again, the production is flawless, but because of the melodies and like that heavy metal sensibility, these songs just become even more memorable and they're incredibly catchy. So like, again, these songs, they almost become, with that rock sensibility, as memorable as rock songs, you know, like so many good songs on this, like the opening track, Cognito Ergo Sum, and like, which again, the band, while they're incorporating heavy metal influences, they're still using blast beats. It's still very much black metal, but just with melodic heavy metal fused with that. So very catchy black metal. The song Human Proof, very catchy, slow, heavy chorus, and I love the breakdown. Dan, 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 do, 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 do. Like just simplistic but catchy. Some other favorite songs on this for me would be, yeah, Angel Rectum Still Bleed, so that's the follow-up from Angel Rectum's Do Bleed. Especially the chorus, he will fuck the bejesus out of you. Funny lyrics. And Post Eclipse Era, that's interesting because that is a kind of like catchy mid-pace song, but the riffs and the melodies are so incredibly catchy. And then, oh, Nothing Is Sacred, without a doubt one of my favorite songs on the album, like that riff. and like the vocals mirror it, but like just such a catchy melodic riff fused with the blast beats again, which are great. Then another favorite track of mine is Zero Tolerance. That was written by Alexi, and it sounds almost like it could be a Children of Bodom song, as in like it's just very melodic and catchy, and like some brilliant lead guitars. There's like guitar solos in that song. Like he's just fucking shredding on those songs, but on that song, but with so much melody. Unfortunately, that song, it deals with it's a very politically incorrect song, like sort of hate directed against a certain group. I personally disagree with it, but this band has never been one for political correctness. Like yeah, but yeah, musically a fantastic song. Then Assault the Weak is another very catchy song with the melodies and the riffs. And then the last two, How the Laughter Died, that's a kind of slower track but very catchy with the mid-paced beat and the melodies. And then it ends with Nihil, the title track, which is fantastic. So yeah, like I said, this album sees the band going back to more heavy metal influences, but it makes the songs more melodic, not in a wimpy way, and just a lot more memorable. So there's the front cover there, I think. So it's showing some bondage and, you know, goats' heads and gas masks, which are sort of like trademark elements of the Impaled Nazarene imagery. And showing you the booklet here. Yep, so all of the lyrics, which are nice and readable. Yeah. So there you have it. And I think, did I show you the disc? Yep, so this silhouette of the band as well, which is also shown in the back. Anyway, but yeah, strongly recommend this. So let's just recap. My favorite songs on this would be Cognito Ergo Sum, Human Proof, Post Eclipse Era, Nothing Is Sacred is probably my favorite song. Also Zero Tolerance. Yeah, but absolutely brilliant album. So bursting with energy and a great return to form, going in a slightly different direction, but awesome. Impaled Nazarene with Nihil or Nihil. Check it out, definitely. All right, and just one more album to talk about today, guys, and then we're done. So I'm sure everyone's relieved about that. This is another brilliant album, and probably my favorite by the band. This is Impaled Nazarene with Absence of War Does Not Mean Peace. So first of all, fantastic, iconic cover art with this kind of marbled statue, naked woman and the bullet belt draped over the top. Yep, so this album, it sort of picks up where Nihil left off, and that might sound like such a cliche, but this album had a lot of heavy metal influences, and they just, in my opinion, they just dived deeper into that direction on this album, and this is where the band is absolutely on fire, as far as I'm concerned. Like the creativity is just flowing on this album with such fantastic ease. Again, it's sort of like very heavy metal influenced black metal, and very melodic, very catchy, just very memorable songs. So it's just like improving on what Nihil did. So yeah, this is the band's crowning glory for me. Not that they've ever released a bad album, but yeah, the album starts off with Stratagem, which is kind of like a prelude, but then it goes into Absence of War. Fantastic song in terms of the riffs. And again, the riffs, when I say melodic, I don't mean like melodic as in melodic death metal like Arch Enemy, absolutely not, but it's just like that heavy metal influences make the album so memorable. So Absence of War is great, got some sort of vitriolic extreme lyrics in that song, and as I've mentioned in a thread video, probably one of my favorite tracks on the album is The Lost Art of Goat Sacrificing. Again, silly title, but the melodies and the riffs in that song and the double bass drumming are absolutely fantastic. They just reel you in, so incredibly catchy. The drumming is a real highlight on that song, The Lost Art of Goat Sacrificing. Then you've got Prequel to Bleeding, which is another one about angel rectums do bleed. Not one of my favorites on the album, but a good song. But one of my favorites is definitely Hard Boiled and Still Hellbound. Like just the riffs are so catchy and memorable, but in addition to that, the drums are blasting, but it's a very sort of anthemic song, and the vocals are very pissed off and on fire, which is great. And of course, in addition to the memorable riffs, there's that line which is funny: we are hard-boiled and still fucking hellbound, we don't give a flying fuck. We are hard-boiled and still fucking hellbound, fuck off you fucking useless cunts. So I will have to put up a disclaimer for this video. There's a lot of coarse language based on the lyrics of this. album and band in general. Then Into the Eye of the Storm, again, very melodic, catchy riffs in that, like, but fused with that aggression and blasting. Before the Fallout is an interlude, but then that leads into another favorite track of mine, which is Humble Fuck of Death. Very memorable melodies and riffs, and again, juxtaposed with the blasting drumming and the chorus, the way they deliver that line, Humble Fuck of Death, and the stanzas in that song, like, it's just very, very catchy. And another one of my favorite tracks is Via Dolorosa, just because of the riffs and the guitar melodies are so catchy, like, oh, no, I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing that low and I'm out of tune, but yeah, Via Dolorosa, the riffs are what carry that song. They're fantastic. As I've mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of the lyrics because they're sort of like hating and bashing on Jesus. Not that I'm a Christian, but I think, you know, by this stage, all that, you know, like, whipping and beating on Jesus, like a bit old hat, but then again, this band is a satanic black metal band. But yeah, I just felt like the lyrics are a bit unnecessary in that song. But musically, an absolutely fantastic song, one of my favorites. Then there's another song which is in Finnish, Nirkilla Tapeta, can't read that. But again, amazing guitar solos in that song, and that's something I've neglected to mention, but in a lot of Impaled Nazarene songs, they have melodic guitar solos, especially on Nihil, thanks to Alexi Leaho. He had left the band by this point. Never Forgive is another fantastic track, sort of mid-paced to slow track, which is atmospheric with the use of keyboards. It sounds very epic and melancholic. And I love the lyrics in that song, like, when you've chosen the path to vengeance, be prepared to sacrifice everything on the way, keep the flame of hate burning forever. Like, I don't necessarily agree with that. But, you know, it's like powerful lyrics, you know, like, I don't think revenge is the answer, generally speaking, but then again, this is a black metal band, so yeah, just fantastic, powerful lyrics in that song, but atmosphere with the keyboards and everything. Then Satan Wants You Dead is a very short song, great title, I think probably stolen from Deicide, but hilarious lyrics in that song, which aren't to be taken seriously, I think. And then the last song, The Madness Behind, very catchy and almost got a rocky vibe, actually. And lyrically, again, I disagree with that song. It's about the vocalist's pride in breaking up relationships and that kind of thing, but I think it's done to piss people off in general, but like just very catchy riffs and melodies in that song, especially the end part has got an almost anthemic moment where it's a hey, 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 hey. Like, you've got to hear it, but it's extremely catchy. And there is one lyric in that song where it's just so over the top. It's hilarious, but I'm not going to read it out because it will sound weird, but maybe if you know the song, you know what I'm talking about. But it's the line which starts with, back in my kingdom, I'm thinking of you as I finish the line. Go and look it up if you want. But yeah, this is undoubtedly my favorite Impaled Nazarene album. Like, Cormpt Norz is probably the most classic, but if I had to choose one album which I just enjoy from beginning to end, this would undoubtedly be it. Just showing you the inner booklet, cool art direction for this album, nice readable lyrics. And they did a video clip, I think, for Hard Boiled and Still Hellbound. Love this picture of the band. So a lot of Impaled Nazarene photos show them giving the finger, but here they're drinking Karhu beer, which is the famous Finnish beer. I think Karhu means bear. And cool design on this too, a gun, because after all, absence of war does not mean peace. So yes, if I would recommend all of these albums, but if you are only going to listen to one, I would absolutely recommend this, even though the band, you can see, based hopefully from my descriptions, how the band evolved from this like minimalist black metal band to incorporating other influences like punk, crust punk, and then heavy metal. But that's what's unique and interesting about this band. So in my opinion, this is the band's crowning glory, Impaled Nazarene with Absence of War Does Not Mean Peace. Now, the band has released a few albums after this, but the one after this one was All That You Fear, and when I bought it, I was disappointed in that album. Like, just, it was hard to follow up such a brilliant album as this, Absence of War. But when I heard it, I just thought it sounded a lot more, not exactly commercial, but a lot more accessible, and a lot of songs didn't click with me. So then I think I was very hasty in selling it. But since then, I've actually revisited that album, and I've enjoyed it because they've incorporated some more heavy metal influences. It is a good album. I just think I I didn't give that one enough time. And then after that album, I'm not saying I was put off the band, by no means, because I listened to all of these albums so much, but I just didn't get around to buying the newer ones, which is a mistake because I've heard a lot of people say that this band has never released a bad album. So with those subsequent ones, I just haven't got around to checking them out. But you tell me, after Absence of War, what are some of your favorite Impaled Nazarene albums? I'm going to check them all out. I think there's 5 more, something like that, a lot. But anyway, this band is absolutely brilliant. One of my favorites, and they were my first black metal band. So I can't stress enough how important they are to me. Like in terms of my influence of listening to black metal, but absolutely fantastic band. I'm not going to rank these 7 albums, but I would recommend just check out all of them, probably in chronological order, I would say, just so you can see how they evolved. But yeah, in the order that I presented them. But anyway, guys, I've been rambling on for 46 minutes, so I'm not sure if you're even still watching or listening, but if you are, thank you very much for sticking it out in this video. I didn't expect it to be so long. I was actually expecting it to be a lot shorter, but there you go. I can't help myself when it's a band I really like. So I will be back again soon with another video. I've got plenty of stuff to talk about. Thank you very much to all new subscribers. I got 5 more recently, then 2 unsubscribed, but I got 3 more. Thank you to all subscribers in general for your continued support and interest. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now. Cheers.